All right, Jennifer.
Hey everybody, I'm Jennifer Clark here in Ottawa, Canada. I'm an evolution expert, Canadian certified risk manager, and professional spiritual teacher. What a mix. But I'm here with my wizard guru, colleague, friend, Dr. Bruce Firestone. He, of course, many people in the Ottawa area know him because he is one of the Ottawa Senators co-founders. He's a real estate broker and real estate investment guru extraordinaire, published author. I love the title, Bruce. We're going to talk about that. Don't Back Down and Quantum Entity. He was a former professor at the Telford School of Management, among many things. Loving father, husband, and grandpa. And the guy is a philanthropist, art aficionado, and knows his stuff. Bruce.
Well, I don't have anything left to say. I mean, what an introduction. I've known Jennifer for a long time, and I have a wonderful, kind feeling towards Jennifer. She's this generous, outgoing, bubbly, vivacious person. I'm sure she has occasional down days, but I've never seen one.
Thank you, Bruce.
And no, I mean that, and you know, that is something that I think, especially in this era that we're in right now, is really important. You know, Jennifer, if you go back throughout history, when people have been in real trouble, whether it's the pandemic of 1919, the Spanish flu pandemic, facing down the Great War, the Second World War, the Cold War, you know, the Great Depression, and now, of course, what we have on us now, the key thing to surviving is hope.
Yes, and pivoting, adapting.
Adapting. I mean, yeah. I mean, you know, as long as you have good health, you have, you know, at least the opportunity to pivot and to change. And you know, people often say, Jennifer, that there are only two things that are certain in life: death and taxes. And I don't agree with that. I think there are three: death, taxes, and change.
Right. I agree with that. Now, speaking of change, you and I used to have our Firestone Clark report on Blog Talk Radio 7 years ago.
Oh my God.
I had to leave because I got pregnant and had a wonderful son and became
Liam.
You went on to co-host a show with Mr. Williams, and we're back now, looping back in at the pandemic. Isn't that how life brings us back? I love it.
It is a strange life we all lead, and Jennifer, you know, the universe is telling us something.
For sure, and I'm listening because I saw your opportunity. We're going to talk about that in a minute. Your pivot program.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm as a solo entrepreneur, I'm affected by this economic downturn because of COVID-19. As a single co-parent, 90% of my revenue comes from live events and you know, direct contact with people. So I was like, whoa! I've got to pivot really fast, really quickly. So tell us what inspired your upcoming 3-month program, which is such an amazing opportunity to work with someone of your caliber. Thank you for making it affordable, really, from my heart from my bank account to yours, Bruce. Thank you, because I'm joining the program just to get access to you. It's phenomenal. So tell us what inspired it and what's it all about.
All right. Well, you know, I woke up on Good Friday, so Easter's not far behind us. I woke up on Good Friday, and it was just in my head, you know, after I retired from the University of Ottawa, from the Telford School of Management, where I was teaching entrepreneurship, I actually didn't know what I was going to do, other than I wasn't just going to sit in front of the TV and watch TV all day. And I hate golf, so I'm not going to go play golf every day. That's more like a job. And so actually, Jennifer, I reached out to a life coach of my own, and she was fantastic. And my dad, before he passed away, said people should never retire. You might change what you do, but again, don't just sit at home and watch TV. So, excuse me. So she helped me, you know, trying to find my why. And, you know, she told me the two most important days in your life are the day you are born and the day you find out why. And Mark Twain said that, not her, but it's still true, I think. And there I was at 60, you know, trying to find my why. And I did. After a few months of coaching with her, I thought I could be a real estate investment and business coach, you know, because the only things that have worked for me have been, you know, owning a personal business for life, and also some real estate, you know, a house and maybe a few other properties. And you know, I hung up my shingle as a coach. And, real estate investment and business coach, not a life coach or healing coach, but that kind of a coach. And I didn't know if anybody would want any coaching from me, because every business, whether it's your business or mine or anyone else's, is an experiment till proven otherwise. And then it turned out there were a lot of people who wanted to, pivot away from having a job. My students used to say a job is a journey of the broke. Yeah, and so I kind of had a, like lightning in a bottle, and so hundreds of people from across Canada, the United States. I got a few clients in Australia, and a few in Sweden, a few in the United Kingdom. Sought me out as a real estate investment and business coach, and I've been doing that now for 7 years. But I woke up on that Good Friday, and I thought, with so many people out of work, I have 5 kids, Jennifer, and 3 beautiful grandsons, and 2 of my kids are out of work. And I thought, I taught entrepreneurship. I taught young people, in their 20s to, frankly, to their 70s to start businesses. And it was a very successful program. And some of those businesses have become pretty big. And can I give you an example of one?
Absolutely, yeah.
All right, because I think this is one that I think might really resonate with you and with some of our listeners. So let me just see. So can you see my screen okay?
Yes, I got it. Thank you.
All right. So there's Jennifer, pivot into possibilities. Jennifer Clark, explore, experience, evolve. And there's me, Bruce. And I was looking at my qualifications. You can see them on the left. They're very, very, very short. But Jennifer's are very long. So I'll tell you a little bit more about me. So I'm a civil engineer, and I did my Master's of Engineering Science degree at the University of New South Wales in Australia. I lived in Australia for many years. And then I did a PhD in urban economics at the Australian National University in Canberra. And then I was a teacher, I was a developer, I was a hockey guy too, as you mentioned. I'm founder of the Ottawa Senators, the NHL team. I'm also a real estate broker, but for the last 7 years, I've been a real estate investment and business coach. Jennifer, on the other hand, is your evolution expert, and you can see on the screen there, she has done so much from Queen's
I'm
University.
Embarrassed by that.
Queen's University, yeah, be embarrassed. Queen's University in 1992.
Oh, that's okay. We're not going to go through this.
Reiki master, angel therapy.
I know what I'm talking about. You know what you're talking about.
Okay.
They want to hear about you.
All right. I got to stop, but it's a long list.
Stop it.
You probably know this. This was Rumi, who in the 13th century said, as you start to walk on the way appears. And that is so true about business. Like the universe is telling us, Jennifer, Bruce, get back on the podcast. And that's what we're doing. But here's a case study I wanted to share with you and our listeners and our viewers. And I mentioned this to you on the phone when we talked the other day. This is a friend of mine. He is an Indigenous person, and he's fairly elderly. And he has a sweat lodge. You can see it here on a piece of property. I actually sold it to him years and years ago, 25 years ago. So there's a pond there in the sweat lodge. So myself and a group of people, many of them much younger than me and much younger than him, went onto the property. We built a new sweat lodge, which you can see here. And these are just some pictures. It's a beautiful piece of land, and we have 113 days of summer in Ottawa, so it's a fantastic thing. Heat up rocks, you go inside the sweat lodge, you sweat out all the poisons in your system, and you feel better. So one of the things he asked me, as I'm just scrolling through these pictures, was, can you help me, Bruce, because the financial situation that he was facing was quite difficult, and he's quite elderly now. And I said to him, I'll call him Joseph. That's not his real name. I said, Joseph, you have been trained in sweat lodge, in the Indigenous way of doing this. Why don't you charge people for it? There will be thousands, I think, or hundreds anyway, but thousands probably of folks, many of them white folks, who will want to learn from you. Because what happened to him is in his early 40s, he became very sick, Jennifer. He went back to his people, and the elders of his tribe told him that he could not eat the white man's food anymore. He had to change his diet. You know, going to McDonald's was literally killing him. So they
Yeah, they actually have an enzyme that cannot process sugar.
I think that's right. You know, so he had to change his diet. But before any of that happened, they put him in a sweat lodge. This was in Saskatchewan, and for I think 3 days he sweated up poisons. There was green goo coming out of his skin, and after that he had to go back to a more traditional diet of meat and nuts and berries and, you know, grains. Wild grains. So, and he felt better, and now he's well into his 80s, and, you know, he's doing very well. He's very hale and hearty. So in the sweat lodge, you know, he will say some prayers, and we will share a pipe. There's some drumming. You know, it's a wonderful experience. So I said to him, I mean, Joseph, this is a fabulous training. You've now been doing it for over 40 years. You are now an elder. Why don't you train people? And then he told me something I didn't know, Jennifer. Sweat lodge training must be free.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, oh, I did not know that. You know, as a white folk, you know, we charge for everything. No, you cannot do that. So I said, I understand. So we thought about it for a while. And I said to him, what if you were to put around this pond 8 yurts?
Mm-hmm.
And I think I actually, I don't know if I could find them here. I apologize. I'm just going to get out of this and see if I can show you the yurts that we're talking about. I think I can. I have them in here, and I apologize. So these are yurts. Can you see that on the screen?
Yeah. Yeah.
These are yurts that are actually built by a former architecture student of mine. Her name is Anissa Zato. She builds.
Oh wow, they're beautiful.
They're beautiful. They're Pickering, Ontario, and I'll just show you a couple more pictures. Here they are here, and here's another one. And you can see this is inside. Look at the windows, and you know, it's quite big. They're like 21-foot diameter, and there's about 330 square feet in them. And what's really cool about it, Jen, is these yurts are good down to -40. You know, they come with their own stainless steel chimney, and you can put a you know, wood stove in there, and the skin is a reflective insulating skin, so they're good in warm weather. You know, if you have them in Arizona, they'll be fine because they'll be cooler than the outside, let's put it that way. And if they're in Canada, they'll be warmer than the outside, which is good. So I'm going to stop the share for now. And so what happened was, I said, what if you were to put 8 yurts around this beautiful pond and on this property? It's quite a big property, and people could come and stay in these yurts and pay something for that. So the accommodation it costs them something, but the training is free. And that is consistent with his teachings. Yes. And so he and a younger individual who's very close to him and is helping him, because in your 80s, it might be a bit much to do all this yourself. You know, they can make about $200,000 to $300,000 renting the yurts, you know, between the two of them, with some costs against that, and he can sustain himself.
Sure.
So
can I just interject, because this is when like I've known you a very long time.
Yes.
Before the radio show.
Sure.
So you're one of the best business model visionaries, I think, in the planet, and I've said this to you personally. Yeah. And I really believe that. And so I'm really excited for you. Yeah. To launch this, you know, the 3-month program that will probably extend out beyond that point for many people. Because you really can see, just like how you saw the big, you know, field on the Highway 417, and that's the Canadian Tire Center now. You champion that overpass that you had to fight the government to get to. You really see what's not there and what could be there. Right. So when people come to you for this type of coaching, or when someone wants to do your upcoming program, do they have to have a clear vision, or what's the basic introductory element that they would need to present to you? Yeah.
So the very first thing that you start with, Jen, is you start with why. People don't buy what you do, and they don't buy how you do it. They buy why you do it. Yeah. So yes, you could say that I'm a real estate investment and business coach. Mm-hmm. Great. And how do I do it? Well, I do it on Zoom. You know, these days, even if people are in my own town, we're doing it on Zoom. But that's not why people come to me. Not really. They come to me because I tell them why I do it. I do it so that I can help people take care of themselves and their families for 3 generations.
Mhm.
And they go, ooh, I like the sound of that. So people
Yeah.
don't buy what you do or how you do it, they buy why you do it. So first
So
we start.
Simon Sinek, of course, is being labeled as the guy who's created the why, but I mean,
Yeah,
Bouchard,
Simon did
all
that.
of them.
I'm not claiming it's mine.
Oh yeah, no, no,
Uh,
no. I'm just saying for
yeah,
people who don't know what that means, you could
yeah.
read, you
Yeah,
Google
yeah, Simon
that
Sinek is
why.
brilliant, and if you haven't watched him
Yeah,
on YouTube, you should.
right,
So we start with why. Why? What do you want to do, and why do you want to do it, and
mhm,
how do you want to do it? But the why is the crucial piece. And so what happens is we look at their skill set, we look at their hobbies, we look at what they're passionate about, we look at what they're good at doing, and we try and find something where their heart, their gut, and their head are all in alignment. Those
right,
are the 3 things that if we could bring those together, because you might be very good at making widgets, but you might hate doing it.
sure. Or hate
Long
selling them.
term, long term, that's probably not going to work as a
Right.
personal business for life. So we
Mhm.
have to find something that you're passionate about, your heart's in it, that your brain is in it, that, yeah, if I do this, it's probably going to work. It's going to help people, but it's also going to help me. And then the last thing is, are your instincts aligned? You know, when you meet a pretty girl or a handsome fella and you think, wait, you know, maybe I'll ask her out for a date or maybe I'll accept, you know, an offer. You know, you have an instinct about people, right? It's the same thing. You have to be just as passionate about your business as you are about, you know, your spouse or your life partner.
Mhm.
And you know, I still love my wife the way I did when I first met her.
That's lovely, and she's a lovely person. So
She's a
now,
wonderful person. She is certainly my better half.
yes, well, she's the better looking half.
Yeah, for sure.
Thanks, Don. That was,
Yeah, yeah.
talk to
It'll
Don
put me
about
in the
that.
good books now.
Um, Many people, my case included, are in business already, having some success or a lot
Right.
of success. But now, what I actually find is my colleagues and clients who are making millions of dollars are taking the biggest hits because the castle's
Yeah.
like falling
Oh
down
yeah.
fast. Like
Yeah.
there's nothing propping them up because if this doesn't get paid, that doesn't get paid,
Let me give you an
salary.
example. Okay, I know where you're going. Let me give you
Yeah.
an example. One of my clients is High Cube Homes out of Quebec. They
Okay.
make beautiful, beautiful container homes. So you can have a fully fit up, fully functional, like almost like a tiny house, but it's in a container. They ship it anywhere in the world, and for $80,000, there you go. You got a house in your backyard
Nice. Love it.
for your daughter. Well, after COVID-19 hit, sales went to zero. So what did they do? Did they fall down on the ground and start weeping? No, they pivoted. So what did they pivot to? They now sell a little less expensive model. They call it the bunker, and they sell it to hospitals. They sell it to hospitals, long-term care residences, and retirement residences, so that if you were a medical doctor and you
Yes.
don't want, if you've been working in the ER or the OR or the ICU, you don't want to go home, maybe take COVID-19 to your family,
Sure.
you can stay in one of their pods right outside the hospital or the retirement residence, or you can take an elder in one of these long-term care facilities that needs to be isolated. You can isolate them, or a patient from a hospital. So they had to pivot. So you know, they're, even though we're in a very, very tough situation and people are dying at an incredible rate, but nevertheless there is opportunity.
For sure, and that would happen in the Great Depression. That happened when the Federal Reserve went bankrupt. People were buying up properties left, right, and center. So there's always an
You know who the
opportunity.
highest paid people on the planet, maybe of all time, were? It's not Jeff Bezos at Amazon. It was the stars of the 1930s. These were movie stars in the 1930s, in the Great Depression, when a nickel would buy you a beautiful meal. These were people who were making 100,000 US dollars a week.
Oh wow!
You know, when a 5 cents would buy you that. And the
Right.
reason for that is that people were obviously suffering in so many ways
Yeah.
financially, but they all went to the movies. You know,
Yeah. Charlie Chaplin.
you didn't have Netflix or Prime TV at home, so you went to the movies, and not once or twice. You went 4 or 5 times. You know, they were called the Nickelodeon. You put a
Yeah.
nickel, you'd go
Yeah.
in, and
Yeah.
you'd watch these movie stars, and so all that money came to them. So can you imagine, you know, making, you know, 5-6 million US dollars a year in 1933. I mean, it would be just unimaginable. There's nothing they couldn't afford. And if you ever look at some of those old movies from the 30s, you wonder how in the world did this whole thing exist? That's how. And even here today, in a very difficult situation, there is lots of opportunity, but you have to certainly work on your business model.
And so the first step for me would be telling people about your webinar, right? It's if they're interested, can we go over a bit, please, Bruce, for people who don't know anything. You're having a webinar on Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern. It's free on Zoom. And what will you cover there?
So let me just see if I've got some slides here that I can share with everybody. Yeah, I have something here that probably will help. So this is what we're doing on Thursday. I call it Pivot. Turn yourself into a gigpreneur. Start your own business in just 3 months with practically no money down. And the webinar is free. It's on Thursday, April 30th at 3 p.m. I think Eastern
It's 4
time.
p.m.
Is it 4 p.m.?
Yeah.
I don't remember. I will make sure that we'll get that right. So I have a webinar on Thursday, April 30th, and we'll talk about this. So what I'm going to talk about is the course itself. It starts in May. It goes May, June, and July. But there is a bit of a catch here, Jennifer, that people who are going to sign up, if they sign up, they must actually start a business in that 3-month period. They can't just talk about it, they have to start. And this is a program that I ran at the Sprott School of Business at Carleton University, and then after that at the Telfer School of Management. So in the 13 weeks that those students studied with me, they must start a business, and some of them started tech businesses. Grade A Tech started back, like must be 15 years ago now. They have over 100 employees, probably $30 million a year in business. So that's one type of startup, and that's enough of the share. And then I've got one former student. He was an IT student, an information technology student, who came to me because he was required to start a business in that course. He said, his name was Ryan, I am going to start a comic, an online comic.
All right.
And I said, Ryan, I thought you were an IT guy. He says, I am. I said, do you know how to draw? He said, not even close. I can't draw anything. What he did was he created 5 panels that never change. It's called Dinosaur Comics. And Dinosaur Comics has become this huge deal. Like when he goes to Comic-Con, whenever they could go again, he's like mobbed. He's like 6'7", 6'8". He's very handsome. And he has hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of people who read Dinosaur Comics. But these are 5 or 6 panels that never change. The only thing that changes is the dialogue. So he's got a male dinosaur, like a T-Rex, who's very chauvinistic. And then he's got 2 female dinosaurs who are wise and, nurturing and everything else. So it's the interplay between these voices that are very interesting. He's got hundreds of thousands of followers, and he then has used that as a base to become like an internationally famous creator of comics and also of books based on his comics. And then he did To Be or Not to Be, a Choosable Path adventure. He put his one of his projects, which was to update Shakespeare, on Kickstarter, back when Kickstarter was fairly new, and he was going to try and raise $20,000 US to put together an online choosable path. So you could choose to be the prince, Hamlet, or you could choose to be another character, and you could actually change the outcome of the story. You could do all kinds of cool things with it. And he wanted to try and raise $20,000 on Kickstarter. Instead, he raised over $530,000. Yeah, he missed, but in a good way. So former students of mine have been starting tech businesses, service companies, comic books. Another group of my students have a license to print movie posters from the 1950s. Those, the creature from the Black Lagoon, the Swamp Thing. They have a license to do that. So you could buy, still to this day, you could buy these beautiful movie posters from, those B movies.
The kitschy ones, yeah.
They're really kitschy ones, and they're fun. So,
and Bruce, how about people who, like me, are already down the rabbit hole, but need some help, some zhuzhing up, some pivoting, some advice?
Yeah, so that's what we're doing. I mean, if you think about High Cube Homes, with their container homes pivoting towards the bunker, you know, and we have built a business model around it, which is really incredible. So what they don't sell them to the hospitals, they don't sell them to the retirement residents or long-term care facilities. They lease them.
Right.
And after about 7 years, those leases have retired the debt against
Oh, wow.
those container homes. So let's just do some numbers here very quickly, okay? So for every 500 units that they rent, and they rent them, I think, for $450 a month. So I don't know if you can read that.
Sorry, 225,000?
I think so. So for every 500 units that are out in the field after they retire the debt, their income is $225,000 a month. That's for 500. If they put out 50,000 of these, you could just do the numbers.
Right,
So,
right.
so that's the difference between having a project and having a business model. So we've been working on the business model, and it's a little bit like,
But to interject, the people that can apply for the program or take the webinar, they can either be having an idea about to launch or wanting to launch, or in the middle of running in the business and needing some help, correct?
yeah, I think that's correct. But the one thing that they all have to have in common is the decision they've made to act.
Right.
You cannot change your future by doing the same things you did even 3 months ago. The change is here. And the one thing I'm looking for in students is that willingness to change. Because if HiCube said, no, we're not going to do anything different than what we did 3 months ago,
Right.
they would go bankrupt, I think.
Right. So is that why, Bruce, you've made it really, again, thank you for making it affordable. It's $113 a month for the 3 months in the sort of the.
It's $100 a month for 3 months. So you have to budget. You know, the reason I priced it that way is, look, this is a calling for me. You know, it's not really, you know, $100 isn't going to make me rich, but it is a calling. So if you can find $100, but it's not for free, $100 plus HST, which in Ontario is $13, and Alberta it's 5%, so it might be $5. So it's anywhere from $105.
It'll be $113 in Ontario.
It will be, and in the United States, it'll just be $100 Canadian, which is about $5 US.
Yeah.
But it will last 3 months, and it starts on May 14th. It'll be on, the lectures will be on Zoom, and you know, I'm really excited about it. But everybody has to either start a business or they're going to pivot their business, much as HiCube did.
Yes, wonderful. And again, I think the timing is great because the Ford government here in Ontario is starting to talk about reintegration, staged reentry.
Yeah, reopening.
So is the federal, you know, what that means, no one knows yet, but that's okay. It looks like, you know, mid-May, end of May might be a good time to do all this. So
yeah,
what's your?
I do think that there is tremendous opportunity for the people who are willing to act, and that's true. It was true in the 1930s. You know, an attractive person like yourself could have been in the movies, you know, and maybe
Thank you.
make $5 million US a year back then.
Charlie Chaplin.
Yeah, Charlie was quite the womanizer. Watch out.
Oh, he was. I just saw a documentary on him. In fact, that's why he popped in my head.
Now you were more than a match for Charlie, though. I feel sorry for Charlie.
He was actually very smart, very twisted, but very smart.
Oh yeah, no, he was twisted. Yeah.
Yeah. But question for you. So if you were launching a business now, looking at the wide world, looking at the opportunities, like the needs, whether it's masks, hand sanitizers, toilet paper, roads, hockey, whatever, what would you do now? If you were young and you had time, you had energy and all the things you think you don't have right now, Bruce, which is a crock of shit, but you do. Anyway, what would you do right now?
Well, you know, I think one of the neat things about this course is that the people who study with me are going to learn, not just from me. I have 9 former students of mine and former coaching clients of mine who are going to show up and talk about their experiences.
Right.
Jamie Montero, for example, is a young woman in her 30s. She has been a single mom, and I helped her start a mobile pet grooming business.
Hmm.
And when you hear her business model, you'd be amazed. I mean, she started with one Mercedes van, you know, those tall vans,
Yep.
and she upfitted it to include, you know, grooming stations for cats or dogs, and one mobile grooming van became two. Then it became a permanent
Wow.
location on Bank Street. Then another location in the west end of her city. That's in Canada, and she's got some models that will blow this thing up across Canada, the United States. And so she is taking care of herself, and she's taking care of her family, and she's
Mm.
doing it because she totally bootstrapped that. You know,
Yeah.
she did not have any money, and she's turned herself into a well-to-do individual through her own efforts and a little bit of coaching.
Right. So Bruce, talk about that. So again, I've worked with you on projects. We've gone into land spaces and we've journeyed
Yeah,
on, you know, in the wintertime, in the summertime, seeing all the wonderful things. And by the way, that NCC land keeps talking to me, Bruce.
I hear you.
NCC land keeps saying, bring the Bruce back. Um, Having said that, are you going to help people with the tangible, concrete stuff? Because that's where a lot of people, they
Yeah.
can't see what you see.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. Like, I mean, there's going to be quite a few assignments, by the way. You know, I am an old prof, so I will give people stuff to do, and I will mark it. I mean, if I get 30 students, I'll mark them all. If I
Right.
get 40, I'll mark them all, and I'm looking forward to that. And I will make comments too, because you know, I'm going to give you an example, not today, of a young woman, and I actually have it in here. Just let me read you what she was facing when she came to see me. Her name is Brooke. She was 23 when she came to see me a few years ago. She'd recently been fired from her cleaning service job where she was making $12 an hour. Why did they fire her? Because she became pregnant.
Oh,
Then her boyfriend, when he found out she was pregnant, said, "I'm leaving, and
oh,
if you want any money from me, I'll disappear and you'll never find me." So that was number three. Then her mom and dad got divorced. Her mom had substance abuse issues. Dad had remarried but had no room for her. She had no car. Her credit score was in the dumpster, and she had no place to live. She was couch surfing when she came to see me.
oh, wow.
Yeah. So how about that? You're going to have a baby on a couch in somebody's a living room. I don't know. So so we went through all the same steps. You know, what are you passionate about? And it turns out she likes to clean.
Mhm.
And she started a company called Keeping It Clean. And so I coached her on how to get some financing,
Mhm.
how to get a car, you know, how to get some trade credit, how to get the equipment that she needs, how to do some marketing, you know, and lo and behold, within not very long, like 8 or 9 months, she was making about $70,000 a
Oh my
year.
gosh, that's
Yeah,
amazing.
and then I
At
said,
23.
well, she was by that time she might have been 24.
Well, but still.
Yeah, yeah, and I'll show you. I'll just share a picture because I have a picture. You know, it's always fun to see. Um, and so this is Brooke here,
Beautiful.
and she's a wonderful, wonderful person. And she's sitting in my one of my buildings, you know, with a
Yeah.
goal in mind. And she is on track now. And I'll explain it when I do the webinar on
Yeah.
Thursday. She's on track now to make $200,000 a year.
Oh, good for her. Good for
But it's a
her.
business model that's going to do that. And I think I have a picture of me with her baby. Hang on a second. There.
Oh,
And so there you go. So and so how would you go in the cleaning business to make 200,000 a year? Well, she has all kinds of friends who are cleaners, and they come and work for her, and
right,
she gives them a living wage, not $12 an hour,
right,
14 or
right.
$15 an hour.
Yeah,
She gives them 18 to 22 or $23 an hour, but she rents them out to her customer base at
right,
30 or $35 an hour. So she
right,
can make about $10 an hour on all the people who work for
right,
her.
right.
It's the business model that has propelled Brooke to
But
success.
let me just pause. This is something you helped her with, correct?
Yeah, yeah. Well, every aspect of it.
Right. Because again, this is where people love hearing these success stories. But if they're sitting at home thinking, well, I don't know how to do that,
That's why they
they
have to
haven't
take the
met you
course.
yet.
Well, they have to take the course, you know, and it's not for everybody, Jennifer. You really, it's, you know, a lot of people will come and say, "Hey, Bruce, can you teach me how to get rich quick?" And I go, "I'm so glad you asked that." No,
Good, because it is a no.
It's a no. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, if I knew how to do that, well, and anybody who tells you, you know, come and study with me, any training, I'll
Yeah.
help you get rich quick. That is probably BS.
Right. Fair enough. And I agree. And I've studied with a few of those guys.
Yeah, I
And
have
so
to.
after the 3 months, Bruce, what happens?
Well, some of these people may ask for some coaching, one-on-one coaching
Like
with me.
ongoing? Yeah.
Yeah, if they want to, and I do that. I'm not expensive either. Before COVID-19 hit, I charged for one-on-one coaching. I charged $1,500 a month. But during the COVID-19 era, I just decided to drop that to $850 a month. So if they
Right.
need some one-on-one coaching, they can always come to me for that. And you know, my coaching practice has really grown, and I've trained, I think now 12 or 13 co-coaches. So I have other people in Canada, the United States, who are my quote unquote disciples who are doing the same thing. Because as I get older, the number of people who wanted coaching was way too many for some, you know, I can do maybe 10 or 12 a month, you know, help people, but you know, not
I'll
more.
be
But
your Mary
somebody,
Magdalene, Bruce.
a big partner.
I'll be the Mary Magdalene.
Yeah, I mean, you somebody with your age and competency, I mean, you know, you could coach 20 people a month, but for somebody like me, I'm working really hard and I'm 68.
Well, you keep saying that, you know what, Bruce, and that's one of my beefs with you, my friend, is until you're dead, you just keep doing what you do. Don't look
Oh,
at the
I'm
numbers.
going to continue to do this until St. Peter, you know, knocks on the door and says, "That's it.
So I
You're
want
out of
to
here."
loop back to something that just popped in my head a while ago. Your book, Don't Back Down. It was about, you launching,
Yeah.
co-founding the Ottawa Senators. I know a lot of the stories because I know you as a friend. What's the biggest, I mean, there's so many people that miss the NHL right now. And in fact, the Canadian Tire Center, all those employees and all those people
Oh,
that
yeah.
loved it. Although I do think it's a good reorganized focus on nurses and doctors and,
Mhm.
salaries and, what is really important. Having said that, what did creating that massive legacy piece for this, nation, Ottawa, obviously, but obviously, actually, the club in the NHL. What did one of the biggest lessons that you learned that you want to share with people? Because I know you've talked about this all in the past, couple decades, but
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
really
So,
speaks now because
yeah, I
you're
understand
a
the question.
gladiator again.
Yeah. So you know, I very much enjoyed my time with the National Hockey League and the Board of Governors. You know, I served on the Board of Governors and enjoyed, you know, all of my time spent with players and general managers and coaches and most of the other ownership and with the commissioner and others. It was a great experience. But one of the things that I think is really important, Jennifer, is not to look back, is to look
Oh,
forward. And you know, I don't spend a lot of time thinking about the good old days. You know, the difference between an old person and a young person isn't necessarily how many times they've been around the sun.
right,
It's you become old when you think you know everything. And I
right,
learn almost as much from the people I teach, coach, and mentor as they do from me. I'm learning new things like all the time. Like we're inventing new business models like
right.
all the time. And you know, I'm learning a lot. And so I know old 30-year-olds and I know young 70-year-olds. And the
Sure.
difference is that the 30-year-old has said, I'm good. I know everything. And the
Yeah,
moment you stop learning, you get old.
yeah.
So I think it's really important, you know, looking back, you know, what did I learn from that? And then move on.
For sure, for sure. So Quantum Entity, your other book that I love, it's my lane, right? Um, for you and the cosmology, like, a
Yeah.
lot of this has been called the great reflection, the great
Yeah.
pause,
Yeah.
allowing us to go within and, really contemplate who we are and why
Mhm.
we're here, the why. What do you think is happening on a larger scale? So outside of business and outside of,
A lot of the stuff that I put into that trilogy, the Quantum Entity trilogy, seems to be coming to pass. One of the things I said in that trilogy is one of my characters, I think in book 3, maybe it's book 2, but I think it is book 3.
I'm in the book, by the way.
I think you are.
I am.
Um,
No, I
uh,
know I am. You told
yeah,
me.
I think I put you in there.
You did.
So one of the characters, she comes up with the idea of um, of a farm in a box,
Mhm.
which she calls a Roxy. And she creates with her close friend a farm in the box where everybody in their basement has like something that will create, you know, fruits and vegetables and
Food. Yeah. Right. Right.
you know, it just, yeah, it's science fiction, so it can be anything. And she decides that the reason she wants to do that is, in her mind, 2/3 of the land surface of the earth and 3/4 of the oceans should be no-go zones for human beings. I
Right.
believe that too.
Yeah. I do too.
She says it, but I believe it.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is if you look at where flora and fauna are flourishing on this planet, they're in two locations that would surprise you. One is the no-go zone around Chernobyl, and
Oh wow.
the other is the demilitarized zone between the two Koreas. Human beings do not go in those places. There are not very many.
Right.
In the demilitarized zone, if you were to go there, where no human beings have gone for at least 70 years,
Right.
other than the occasional military patrol, which is very occasional because there's so many landmines there,
Okay.
it is that you find an incredible explosion of growth you know, the flora and the fauna. And same thing around Chernobyl, in that 50-mile exclusion zone, and that's a radius. And so it's incredible. So I think if we're going to save this planet, not just for human beings, but for all the species, we have to make a change. I'll give you another example, Jennifer. I don't think it makes any sense for us to have these million-dollar homes in the suburbs or multi-million-dollar homes in the suburbs and these huge buildings downtown. And what happens is some rich dude gets up in the morning, gets in his car, drives for an hour and a half through traffic, goes into these awful office building with their fluorescent lights and their bad air and their windows don't open, spends 8 or 10 hours there, then gets back in his car and drives out to his mansion in the suburbs. This makes no sense at all. 3 hours in commuting, unbelievable carbon dioxide emissions, just terrible for the planet. We built absolutely terrible, terrible cities. And, you know, you got me on my hobby horse here, but I'm going to finish. You know, years ago, the Stephen Harper government here in Canada had Rick Mercer on TV talking about the 1-ton challenge. You know, here's how you can reduce your carbon footprint by 1 ton a year. Check out this website. So I did. I'm probably the only person who ever actually looked at the website. And the only thing I could find on the website, which was a practical way of reducing your carbon footprint, was when your children are brushing their teeth, turn off the hot water.
Right.
Now that will save about 5 micrograms of CO2 a year, nowhere near a ton. So what I did was, as a good engineer, I created a spreadsheet. And it shows that if you move from here 25 kilometers closer to work, you can save, depending on the type of car, between 1 and 7 tons of carbon dioxide just by bringing your home and office together. So this
why don't you just work from home?
It's the work from home thing. And it's called the FIHAJ movement. That's not my term. That's an architect in Quebec, Isabelle Bradbury, has coined that term. It's FIHAJ, F-E-H-A-J, for every home a job. And
nice.
Isabel's brilliant. And I said, Isabel, I love it, but I'm going to change 2 things. I'm going to go FIJA. She said, what the hell is that? I said, for every job a home.
Oh, nice.
And so I said to, you know, I'm doing a little bit of work for the city of Ottawa and on their new official plan. And I said, if somebody comes along and they want to build, you know, an office tower downtown Ottawa or downtown San Francisco, I don't care where, the answer is no.
Right.
If you're going to put 1,000 people in this new office building that you're building, you have to have 1,000 microsuites there so people can live and work in the same place.
Right.
Otherwise, the answer is no. Right. So we can do an awful lot to improve the planet. I mean, we're doing that right now because we're being forced to. Mother Nature or God or our creator is telling us, you guys, human beings, you're crowding out everybody else. Stop.
Yeah, right. Well, I love it. So I would love to expand on this discussion with FIJA, FUJA, FUBU, Boo-Boo, whatever it is, because, you know, that's my space and that my lane as well is repurposing, you know, buildings and getting people.
Absolutely. I mean, I think whenever I look at a new shopping mall going up and I see people going in and coming out with shopping carts full, I think of those shopping carts full of stuff that the only use out of that stuff will be eventually it'll go to the dump.
Right.
Right. Like I see this consumer thing that we're all doing as being like idiotic, you know, just ridiculous. And another shopping mall, do we really need another regional shopping mall?
No, I agree. And, you know, especially when you know, especially when the land is like, you can see the coyotes in Barrhaven, you know,
Yeah.
looking
Yeah.
for the
And
dens. And
the Canada is a suburb, western suburb of Ottawa, and the residents in Canada are very upset because there's a golf course winding through the Canada North, and they're upset because the golf course, the owners want to close that golf course. I say hallelujah, close the damn thing. Golf
right.
courses to me are the worst blight on the earth. They take up a huge amount of land. They use an incredible amount of water, fungicides, herbicides, insecticides, just endless amounts of energy and things that are very bad for the environment, not to mention bad for human beings and wildlife. And I say hallelujah. Let's do something else with it that's more productive.
Well, let's talk about that, Bruce. So we're just going to close up now because we've been online for about 45 minutes.
Yeah, it's
I
a
just
long
wanna,
time.
Again, bring people's attention back to the free webinar on Thursday. You're going to tag, do you have a link up on one of the slides?
Well, I'm going to check just to make sure that, just give me a second. No, it is 3 o'clock.
Oh, it is 3 o'clock. Pardon me.
It is 3 o'clock on Thursday, the 30th. Hang on. And I'm going to yeah. So there is a link that I need to put out there somewhere. I don't know where, but a link that I need to give you where people can sign up. And I only have.
Well, it's on Eventbrite. They can Google it on Eventbrite. They can follow you, Bruce Murray Firestone, on Eventbrite. They can Google that, eventbrite.ca. That would be my fastest go right now.
Yeah, so go to eventbrite.com and search for Bruce Firestone. You'll find me. Bruce M Firestone, I think is necessary. The M is my middle initial, Murray. And they'll find, thank you for reminding me, because I think I've got 83 or 84 signups, and I'm allowed to have a maximum of 100.
Oh, wonderful. Good. Well, I'm signing up, so, save a spot for me.
And thank you, Liz, and again, and Paul, for joining us today.
I've been telling my community, my followers, that this is a very unique opportunity to study with you. To be
I probably won't do it again,
right.
But like I said, I woke up on Good Friday, and the universe was telling me, kicking me in the butt, saying, Bruce, you did this. You've created, over 1,500 students have studied with me, and many of them have built incredible business. And it's interesting. I got an email just out of the blue yesterday from a former student of mine from 2007. She's in Mumbai. And she's running an educational outreach, not-for-profit in Mumbai with 2 million members. And she said, can they all sign up for the webinar? I said, absolutely not. I said, you can handpick a few, but I cannot teach 2 million people. But the universe was definitely telling me, Jennifer, and hooking up with you again like this has been fantastic.
I know. I think this is fun.
Really,
we're going to do the Possibility podcast. The Pivot Possibility podcast.
Yeah.
Bruce and I are kind of fighting with the name, so we're going to figure it out.
We'll figure it out.
But regardless, and I'd love to get back on, interviewing the cool people in our communities and around the world. I'd love to.
I hear you, and I want to help, but it might have to wait a little bit, because getting this course off the ground, like my wife calls me Action Jackson. Good Friday was like 2 weeks ago, and I've got 82 signups, so I got to get this course off the ground, and it has to be updated, because the stuff that I taught in 2007 was fantastic. But even if I had started this course 3 months ago, I would throw out most of the agenda and change it, most of the course description, because COVID-19 is changing things. And I have some ideas on, there's going to be some really cool things that even if people don't think there's anything out there for them to do, I think we are going to have some really neat stuff for them to do.
Well, I'm excited, Bruce, and you can make me fly higher anytime.
Well, we're going to do that together. Sister, we're going to do it for you, and I'm going to do it for every single person, whether I get 30 people signed up or 80 people, whatever. I'm looking forward to it.
Appreciate it. All right, guys. So thanks for tuning in to the Pivot Possibilities podcast with Dr. Bruce Firestone and myself, Jennifer Clark. Stay tuned for more podcasts coming up, and please go to eventbrite.ca, click on Bruce Murray Firestone, Ottawa, Canada, to look for his free webinar this Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern. Peace.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.